Hi everyone, welcome to Rike Sports F1 show with F1 Global. Ollie, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's been a couple of weeks since we last done a show. What a race the last one was. So as always, we start with the review of the last race. And we said after the Monaco Grand Prix being so boring, we're hoping the next race won't be so boring. And it didn't fail. It's known to be a track where we have some crazy races, and this was another crazy race. So the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, tell us your thoughts on it.
I mean, Baku is bonkers. If you wanted a three-word race review, I think that would be it. Baku is bonkers. Let's start with qualifying. I mean, we didn't think Leclerc would be on pole again. We thought, Monaco was a bit of a one-off. Sticks on pole. We didn't think Lewis in the Mercedes would be in a good position based off Monaco. Sticks on P2. And then Gasly P4, Perez P7, Tsunoda P8, Alonso P9, Bottas P10. I mean, if you started it there, it was just madness. Stroll and Giovinazzi put it in the wall. So I feel like we should have expected something a bit mad from that. Like, as soon as qualifying started, we should have gone, oh, hang on, this is going to be strange. But yeah, I mean, great performance from the Ferraris again. They like these street circuits. So, it's a shame no Singapore for them. But it'll be interesting to see how maybe they do in Saudi Arabia. Same with Red Bull, another street circuit, and so on. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to go on qualifying too much because we've got so much to talk about with the race. So, it was balmy. No one would have thought that was the, qualifying prediction. It's put pressure on certain people. Bottas, I'm looking at you, mate. Massive pressure now, especially with potential rumours that I've heard about a certain Mr. George Russell. And it's really shown how good certain drivers are. I'm mainly looking at Gasly and Sainz. What performance from those two, P4, P5. So, yeah. And then we get onto the race. And I think we should really skip to, lap 29. I don't know about you, but for the first 30-odd laps, I thought, there was some really good moves at the beginning. Don't get me wrong. Perez cutting through, Hamilton and Max, Leclerc doing what he could to defend. But the big moment, first of all, was Lance and his tyre blowing up. That was the first maybe warning moment. We've all seen it. Completely went on its own on that scary main straight. And do you know what? Have you seen the onboards of him talking? He was really scared, and rightfully so, for where he crashed on that sort of kink right. So it was a bit blind. But yeah, so, he went long, should have blown up, and they did. And then, we got underway again. Perfect start from the Red Bulls, Max and Perez just leading through. And then possibly the biggest, or one of the two biggest moments in the World Championship fight happened, which was Max's tyre went. And, I don't know, what were you thinking when you saw that happen? Like, what was your reaction?
I was in shock, So you're watching it, it's looking at him, he's gonna cruise to victory, right? And then next thing, so how it just all of a sudden it pans to the Red Bulls crashed. I mean, you're like, but you knew Lewis was right behind Perez, so you're like, it had to be Max. And then the commentators confirm it's Max Verstappen. You're like, what's happened? Has he crashed the car? But then you're obviously remembering what happened with Stroll. So you're like, okay, it's for tyre.
Yeah.
But it's like that could be really a critical moment in the World Championship, and you saw how upset Max was. He was devastated getting out of the car, and it was just, if that would have been the end result with him crashing out and Lewis getting P1 or P2, it would have been a big turning point in the championship potentially, But in terms of the tyre itself, so we're seeing the news that came out from Pirelli. No one's really taking the blame for it. We're kind of putting it down to bad luck. The explanation, so you saw the explanation. What was your thoughts on that?
I mean, they've said an investigation found the tyres suffered a circumferential break on the inner sidewall related to the running conditions of the tyre. I have two questions. One is I want to know how many lawyers were involved in writing this statement, because it's pure rubbish speak, really. It makes no sense. And the second thing is, as well, is if they're not at fault and Red Bull have come out and said we're not at fault either, and that's seemingly been proven by them, who is at fault? And we sort of joked beforehand, like, who's doing this investigation as well? Because the FIA obviously have a vested interest in Pirelli, because money's involved. the Pirelli have an invested interest in Pirelli because they are Pirelli. You know, so imagine if a Bridgestone or a Michelin or, you know, someone like that did the investigation. Maybe we would actually get an answer as to what happened. It's a radical idea. I know F1 would never accept it. If they do, it started on this podcast. I'm just making that clear. But maybe we should have other manufacturers looking at what these issues are. You know, we'd certainly get an answer. We'd certainly get a reason. You know, so yeah. But what they've done is bring in a new set of protocols governing tyre usage that will come into effect this weekend. I don't really know what they are, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, going back to the crash, I mean, I thought it was Perez at first. I thought him and Hamilton had touched. But you're 100% correct. Like, it's further down, you know, like I was like, they're not going that fast. They couldn't have made it, you know, to the pit straight away. So it's just absolutely insane. And then something else to me that was madder, actually, and really did make me angry, was none of the drivers, I think 2 drivers lifted off when they went past. And Max was either still in the car or he was walking around the car. That's the bit I thought was mad. Like, he was kicking the tyre, having a look at it, obviously really angry. But those cars are going by at 200 miles an hour. Like, if one of them had hit him, he'd be killed instantly, obviously. But yeah, it was just a bit mad. And then for the safety car to take nearly 2 minutes to come out, I thought was really poor. We've seen some really strange safety decisions in the past. Well, ever since we've lost Charlie Whiting, sadly, at the start of last season, we've seen some very strange safety decisions, and this was another one. You know, more needs to be done, and that really needs to be questioned. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the drivers' briefing at France, because, yeah, I think they'll be going at Michael Massey. But yeah, I mean, it's just not acceptable. That happening with the tyre, what happened on track after wasn't acceptable. But, you know, it provided, I think, one of the best races we've seen in a long time. Just for pure chaos. So yeah, and then we had the restart. I almost forgot about the restart. And we had the restart again. I want to know what you were thinking. You know, Lewis has dived down the inside. Perez is giving him a bit of room, and he just goes skating past. What were you thinking, mate?
I couldn't believe it. I was just like, it was just shocking. So you're thinking at that point, wow, like, he's got the lead. This is a big moment in the championship. There's only 2 laps to go, so he's potentially going to go on and win the race. And then he just kept going like that. But, you know, I was a bit worried about his brakes, because I know it's not relevant. It didn't turn out to be that issue. But, you know, they're really overheating on the track, on the grid. You know, so
Yeah.
there's smoke coming from his brakes. You're like, okay, the brakes, maybe there might be an issue. So at first I thought that was the issue. And later, obviously, they explained it was this magic button, which unfortunately he managed to just tap it. Not on purpose, obviously. It was a mistake. He very rarely makes mistakes. So, you know, obviously these things can happen. It's just unfortunate. But in terms of a world championship, I think it was actually a good thing. Because if he had gone on to finish P1 or P2, the points difference, as we know, Mercedes got a really strong car in the tracks that are coming up as well. Max said it himself, you know, so it's I think it worked out to be the best result for the world championship if that happened. But it was just chaos just to see that moment as well. It was just like I say, but before that, seeing Max crash like that, you're like in shock. Then at the restart again, you're in shock to see Lewis go off like that, you know. So well done to Sergio Perez. Got to say that. So this was the key thing with them appointing Sergio Perez to take over from Alex Albon. So I know you're a big fan of Alex, and you know Alex.
I can't argue with it.
Yeah, you know Alex is talented, right? And no doubt about it. But do you believe that, you know, it's a bit hard to compare because last year Red Bull was not as quick, right? They got a much quicker car this year. But do you believe if it was a similar circumstances this year, Alex would have been there to get the win if that in that situation? Because that's what Red Bull need. They need a second driver. If Max is not there, reliability, whatever, to be there to take points, you know, get the wins like that. And he done it. Do you think Alex could do it?
My heart says yes. My head says maybe. I think, yeah, you're 100% correct. Alex Albon is a massively talented driver. Perez is a massively talented driver. I think this car is easier to drive, seemingly, which, you know, I think is different. If it was the same car as last year, no, he wouldn't have done it. Albon would have done it. But we've seen this car is a bit better to drive. And Albon, to be fair to him, has been in a winning position or a near winning position twice now, actually. So, like I said, my heart says yes, my brain sort of says no, to be fair. But, you know, I 100% would want, you know, out of sort of the non-top tier drivers, let's be honest, I'd want a Sergio Perez in the car in any circumstances. My number 2 driver. How much I love Alex Albon, how much I am a fan of people like Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz. I would want Sergio Perez, and like you said, he's proved it with a win, his second ever. Really deserved, really happy. So yeah, I'm super happy, and I'm also really
sorry. Just one thing I really got to give him credit for is he held off Lewis Hamilton for many laps.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It really was impressive. Because we know the pressure. We've seen Bottas, when someone's behind him, he makes mistakes. It was really important for Sergio to show that he can play that role. I know he had a very fast Red Bull in his hands, but to hold off Lewis Hamilton, with that pressure, Lewis was there putting the pressure on. Just takes one small mistake. He didn't make any mistakes, kept it in P2, and then he was there to pick up the pieces when Max and Lewis went out, so well done to him. Sorry to stop you. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say exactly that. And, speaking of the second drive situation, do you remember where Bottas finished?
Where did he finish?
P12, mate.
That's a disaster.
Which, I get it. The Mercedes isn't strong on these tracks, and it's nice to see. But, mate, you can't be finishing P12. You've got to be mixing it up there, especially with there was 2 safety cars. There was the restart as well. Obviously, the restart was 3 laps to go, and I get it. But you qualified P10, you've finished P12, behind 2 Alfa Romeos as well.
Disaster. It's really a disaster.
It's not acceptable. But he's driving or to me, his attitude is sort of what Vettel was like at Ferrari towards the end. A bit like, I'll trundle around the track. I'm not invested anymore in this team. Definitely, I've got Alonso at McLaren vibes. You remember when Alonso just had enough of McLaren Honda at the time, and he just didn't care. And those are the vibes I sort of get with Bottas. So I wonder if he's been told something already about his seat for next season. That's where my brain is at. I wonder if he knows something already, and he's just like, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I think things may have been arranged.
Yeah, I think maybe it's very deflating for him as well that know, at this stage already, this early in the season, that it's very likely he's going to get replaced. Do you think there's a chance to replace him during the season? There was always talk. It's really funny because I'm sure you heard what they said in the media. I think it was a few races ago about, we're not a team that changes our drivers. Without hinting at who we're talking about. We're talking about Red Bull, obviously, but they were like, we're not a team that does things like that, But what do you think? Is there a chance they'll do it?
I don't think they'll do it mid-season because Mercedes. Oh, do I? He is bad, But I think I don't.
They might look at that and be like, if he doesn't pick his game up, because they don't want to lose. They've won all these constructors championships in a row, and they're under big pressure because they're 26 points behind now. Obviously, there's a long way to go, but if he doesn't start upping his game, and Red Bull keep performing so well, and Red Bull have 2 drivers now that are picking up big points, so. But end of the day, business is business. Toto Wolff is a very straightforward guy. If he's seen that this guy is not performing well enough and he's just lost his heart in it, there's a chance. And I think if that is the case, it'd be the right move. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. At the end of the day, you've got to be winning races in a Mercedes, and Lewis has 3, Max has 3, I think, as well now, and Sergio Perez has 1, and that's where the difference is. It's not like 2018, I think it was, where Bottas didn't get a win at all season. It's not like that because he was still getting P2, P3. He was still, contributing to Mercedes. They were so dominant. Lewis was winning everything anyway. And it's tough to say as well because obviously we've had Monaco and Baku, so they're 2 weak Mercedes tracks. We're going into the sprint race season, as I like to call it, these circuits, France, Silverstone and Austria twice. So these are all fast tracks, so it should be different. But the rumor that I've heard is that a contract has been agreed with Russell, and it will be announced this weekend, is what I've heard, seen on the grapevine. Whether that will involve him being replaced this season, I don't think Mercedes will do that. Maybe no, I don't think it would make sense to either, actually, because the cars next year are totally different. But from what I've read, from what I've heard, Russell is going to be announced this weekend, apparently. So big that could be interesting. Yeah. And then Bottas, I've heard different things. Bottas, I've seen going to WEC and stuff like that. So World Endurance. I've seen Bottas to Rally. I've seen Bottas to Williams, but with like an enhanced Mercedes deal for Williams. So I think that'll be the more interesting thing, actually. I know everyone will be clambering over George Russell in the Mercedes, but I'll be more interested to see where Bottas goes. So yeah, but you hit the nail on the head. It's not acceptable to be finishing there. You know, I'm looking at the finishing list, you know, some real great results. You know, we're a big fan of Vettel, so I was very happy to see him in P2, back where he should be.
Great drive.
Brilliant race. You know, Gasly in P3, again, he's getting so much stronger. And I sort of wrote off this AlphaTauri a little bit at the start of the season, thinking last year was a fluke. Maybe it's not. So it's great to see him on the podium. But again, where will he go? Now, Ocon's signed a deal, which was news today, for 3 more years. Where's he going to go? Alonso P6, brilliant to see that. Tsunoda P7 and Kimi Räikkönen P10, which is huge for Alfa Romeo because, you know, they need to get these little odd points. They've got 2 now. Puts them in P8 in the constructors. And, you know, Haas don't look like they're going to score. Williams don't look like they're going to score. So that will make all the difference, just these little odd points that they can pick up, Kimi and Giovinazzi. So, yeah. And then the big thing as well, at the bottom of the table, no one's really spoken about, Haas have overtaken Williams in the Constructors' Championship. So Mazepin and Schumacher finished, I think, P13 and 14 due to retirements. But Russell retired, and Latifi had that weird incident with his engineer. So those guys have fallen below the Haas drivers. So that's a huge thing for money-wise. So, yeah, I mean, there's action everywhere, actually. It's quite nice to see. But who's your driver of the day, actually? That's a question.
I think give it to Vettel for me. That's, yeah, you know, he's done so well. It's just nice to see him up there after, you know, he's had a disappointing start with the team. You know, it's taking him a bit of time to settle in, but he just showed his class. Alonso, again, another one. We were talking about Alonso in the last podcast we did about, you know, what's going on? You know, he was getting beaten by Ocon quite easily a few times. So we'll get like, what's going on? Is it just he needs a bit more time? But again, he showed his class. And Vettel, though, like it's just good to see him up there competing again. We know what a great driver is. He needs the right tool. The thing with him is there's some drivers, they can adapt and they can make a car that's not so fast be fast. I think Vettel, that's difficult for him. He needs the right tools under him. And once he's got that, a car that suits his style, he's one of the best drivers in the world, as he's proven. So, you know, really good to see him up there. For me, he's the driver for the race. What about yourself?
Yeah, Vettel, because I'm a softie and I'm a big fan of him. But
Perez as well, like that was one hell of a drive from Perez, you know.
I was going to say Perez probably deserves it. Gasly as well, that was an amazing drive. Tsunoda, he's definitely bounced back. He's had a tough couple of weeks. That child, I mean, what is he, 20 years old? You know, tough couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm looking at the championship standings. Alonso's now overtaken Ocon, which is big because you know, Alonso needs to beat him. He needs to maintain that reputation. So yeah, that's really good to see. And yeah, it's nice to see a bit of a mix up, you know, not necessarily Red Bull and Mercedes taking the first 4 spots and then us trying to have to figure it out from there. It's nice actually seeing these different cars in different positions for once. And hopefully, like we've said so many times, we won't say it again after this, but hopefully that'll be what happens next year, is we see more of a mix up. But yeah, again, head and heart moment. Heart says Vettel. Head, really, it's Perez should have been driver of the day. You know, he, like you said, controlled it beautifully, especially keeping Hamilton at bay. So yeah, it's good to see that though. But talking of Alpine, by the way, highlighted it early, just a bit of news. It has been confirmed that Ocon has signed a 3-year deal to stay with the team. So he joined them in last year when they were called Renault. And, you know, he signed up for 3 years. I want to get your thoughts on this because I've said so many times about Gasly to Alpine alongside Ocon, 2 French drivers in a historic French car brand. What a match made in heaven. So, yeah, do you think they're maybe setting up for this run after next season when I think Alonso will retire after next season? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's looking that way. Like Gasly's really stepped up. You know, he was doing really well. You know, just unfortunate that he went to Red Bull maybe a bit early. He's up against someone as good as Max, you know, and that's that. You know, he really struggled. So they've demoted him again, kind of put him back down. But what is really important is that he's risen to the challenge and said, "No, I am good enough. I'm going to show you," and he's showing everyone now. So definitely, if he deserves the opportunity, and we're hoping that Alpine will be doing really well. You know, we know what's behind them. It's a big company. Yeah, so
Yeah,
they're gonna want to do well. That's why Alonso's gone back there. They're gonna want to be fighting to win races and win world championships. So that'd be really good to see. Let's see how it goes. If Alonso does retire next year, he would definitely be a great replacement for him going forwards. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think you're 100% spot on. Like, I think the future of that team is French, and they should probably look to make a move sooner rather than later, because Gasly did move too early, and Ricardo was the reason for that. And I think Daniel Ricciardo moving mixed up the F1 world, because he went to Renault, which was a bit mad at the time, still is when you think about it. Caused Gasly to go to Red Bull, which caused Albon to come in, which then caused Albon to go to Red Bull, Gasly back down, Perez to move over, Vettel to potentially, you know what I mean? So, yeah, Ricardo and Gasly sort of set this weird thing in motion with drivers. But yeah, I'm really hopeful for that team. They have struggled this season. Yet again, it's the high and low rate concept they've seemingly struggled with. But yeah, hopefully we'll see a bright future. But yeah, talking of bright future and maybe a team that doesn't have one is Williams, unfortunately. So bit of news from them. Simon Roberts has left. So they've had an internal restructure. And Simon Roberts, who was the temporary team principal, it must be said, has left. But and he's left team principal and as the principal trackside engineer. So that's actually quite a big thing they've lost. And it means now the CEO of Capito, who are the big investors, is now taking over responsibilities. But I saw a quote, I think, from someone saying that, they're not hopeful for next season, which is a little bit worrying. We've said hopefully we'll see a Brawn type season from these guys or just something a bit better. But I saw a quote somewhere, and I'll try and find it and put it out on social. But yeah, they're apparently not too hopeful for next season. I disagree with this move as well, temporary or not. You want stability. That team needs stability, and they're destabilizing it. So yeah, I mean, Williams are Williams, and it's a shame we've come to know. And we watched F1 in the 90s when they were the best team in the world for a long time. So it's a sad moment, but it is what it is. What do you think, Williams, next season? Can they do anything?
Yeah, it's sad that this early in the development of next year's car, they're saying that. So that's a worry. You would think they'll be saying, all right, the car's not looking too good at the moment, but we're going to put a lot of effort in, build a new team. And as you're saying, they're making some of the changes within the team. So we're hoping that this will help us have a more competitive car next year, especially as it's a complete massive change in the rules. So you just it's where you can to gain a performance advantage. And it's so far away that to hear them sort of comments at the moment is a bit worrying and a bit sad. Such a great team, as you said, in the 90s. For me, when I first started watching Formula One, Damon Hill driving for them, they were such a good team. They had some great drivers. They had Jack Villeneuve, they had Ralph Schumacher there. It was a really good team. So it's sad to see them fall down like this, but let's hope they come back and they're doing well again in the future. As we said, let's just hope. What will be a perfect scenario for us as fans is that all the teams are quite similar. Obviously you're going to get a bit of a divide where you're going to have a few teams that are going to be a bit faster than the rest. But if we can see that they're all bunched up, what's been good this season, as you said, is that we've seen it's quite close between the AlphaTauris, the Ferraris, the McLarens, the Alpines are getting up there a bit more again now. So it's good to see that midfield pack. So if we can have a back marker teams close in on them as well, that'll make next season even better. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And sticking at the back of the pack. Something that's a bit sad, but it is what it is. And Romain Grosjean, unfortunately, before we as we head into France, and we'll talk about our sort of looking ahead at that, he's had his test postponed with Mercedes, which is a real shame because we've been looking forward to that. What's nice to see, though, is Mercedes have committed to it. So we are going to see him in a Mercedes, and we're going to see how fast he is. I've said before, Grosjean was one of the best in those 2011, 12, 13 seasons in that Lotus. He should have maybe won some races. He got 13 podiums. He was very, very fast and very underappreciated. Became a bit of a joke, with all the crashes and stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's just a bit of a shame heading into France. But The other good bit of good news good news, it's through a driver injury, unfortunately, but Kevin Magnussen, so the Haas guys are keeping really busy, is going to be racing for Arrow McLaren in IndyCar for the next race while Felix Rosenqvist recovers. So, the Haas boys are going to be tearing it up in IndyCar, and I cannot wait to see, because Roman's been amazing. Marcus Ericsson used to be an F1 with Alfa Romeo, won a race on the weekend, his first one. Kevin Magnussen won his first ISPA race at the weekend as well for taking pole. So I think it's going to be brilliant to see those guys, battling on track again. Magnussen, definitely one of those drivers, a bit like Perez, who probably deserved better cars than he got. So yeah, fingers crossed we'll see something good. I know you don't watch IndyCar as much as I do, but now's probably a good time to get into it with so many names we might recognise.
For sure, I'll be definitely looking out for that. For sure. So, as you were saying, looking ahead now to the upcoming race at France, the Paul Ricard track. So they weren't racing there last year, as we know, due to the COVID situation. But the 2 years before that, F1 had just come back to that track, hadn't it? So there's a long break where they weren't racing there. But the two races they had there were dominated by Mercedes. And that this track really suits the Mercedes, and they expect them to be very dominant again after these last two races. You heard the talk coming out of Mercedes. They were really upset with what happened. They're not used to losing, so to lose that badly, they really were not happy. And you saw what Toto Wolff was saying, that we're going to take that anger out into the next race and make sure we perform much better. So that's ominous on a track that favors their car, suits their car. And reason that they're looking to be clear favorites is if you look at the two races before the last two we had, so they were in Barcelona and in Portugal. Similar tracks to the one in France, and Mercedes were very dominant. They won both races easily. So it's a bit ominous for Red Bull. What's your thoughts on the race coming up?
Yeah, you feel it's going to be a Mercedes win, don't you? And particularly a Lewis win as well. I think our predictions might be shockingly similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Mercedes sort of own this track. We've raced there, 2018, 2019. Mercedes won both. One of the Ferraris was close, I think, Charles in P3 in 2019. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see because, Red Bull had definitely built more of an all-round car this season, which is nice to see. But Mercedes is Mercedes, and these are fast tracks, and these are tracks that Mercedes win at. France, Silverstone, Austria. So yeah, it'll be good to see. Like you sort of said, though, just then, I think the more interesting fight for me, at least, is further down. How the AlphaTauri is going to do, how Aston going to do, how Alpine going to do. We're going to see, maybe a Ferrari even challenge for a win. Maybe we're not. I can tell you that now. We're not, but we might see them mix it up a little bit.
Could get pole.
I think that's. Yeah, he could get pole again. God, you know what? He'll get pole again. Do you remember when he first drove for Ferrari? He got they had their dodgy engine all tuned up. We might see it, but yeah, I think I'm really looking forward to this section of races. Not looking forward to France because it is a pretty boring track, but it's a race, so I'll take it. So yeah.
Yeah, so I played the track on the games, and it's just kind of mainly straights, which is what people say is really boring. Not too many corners, so it's not ideal in that way. But one thing that could spice things up, the weather forecasts. So we love to look at the weather.
Love a weather forecast in this podcast.
We're looking at it with a bit of rain, because a bit of rain always makes the race so interesting. So there is a 60% chance of rain on race day on the Sunday. They're expecting some heavy showers throughout the day. So hopefully there will be a bit of rain about, because it just makes the action so much more enjoyable when there is rain. So that could spice things up. Now, again, even in the rain, I'd say Mercedes would be favourite, especially Lewis Hamilton. We know he's a master in the rain. But let's hope we see a close battle between him and Max, and Mercedes and Red Bull. What are your predictions for qualifying?
For quali, I would probably go. It's hard to look past Lewis, isn't it? Lewis, I'm going to put Valtteri up there. I think he'll bounce back. Fast track, Mercedes track, P2 last time we raced there. Lewis, Valtteri. I'm going to say Max. I know it's really boring, but it's hard to look past those guys. Definitely the top car maybe around these tracks, and two of the three top drivers. Bit boring, but yeah, Lewis, Valtteri, Max. Sorry. that's what I'm going. How about you?
So with the qualifying, I'm not sure. Again, we're reading, what we've seen so far from the research I've been doing is that Mercedes sometimes struggle with heating up their tires, the soft tires. So what they've done compared to Barcelona Pirelli, they've gone for a softer, more aggressive selection of tires for this race. Okay, so instead of a C1, C2, C3, they're going C2, C3, C4. So that might favor the Red Bull a little bit in terms of qualifying, getting the heat in their tires. We know a lot of Formula One is about the tires. I was reading a really interesting article about with these street tracks, it was favoring the front low tires, so like getting the heat into the front tires. Whereas on the faster tracks, in the races before in Barcelona and Portugal, it was more about the rear tires. And Mercedes are better with the rear tires, and Red Bull apparently are better with the front tires. So you know how technical and complex these things are. It's just these, Formula One is such a technical sport that these small might seem like minute things, but they make a big difference. So just saying to someone, the front tires heat up better on the Red Bull. I mean, you might not think it's that big a deal, but it can be such a big deal in this situation, right? When it's so close, when you've got two cars that are really closely matched and they're doing well, both are winning races. So that will tend to put the chance that there's a chance. I'm saying I'm not sure, but if they're better at heating their tires and they've got that one lap pace, Max could, cause a bit of an upset in qualifying. However, I'm gonna be a bit boring, yeah, because I just can't see it. Right, I've just dressed it up and made it like, yeah, Red Bull got a chance, but really and truly,
It's going to be raining. It's going to be tire temperatures.
I can't see any of that. I can see it being a dominant Mercedes, and I think it would be Hamilton on pole. I think because the advantage I have, Bottas, we know he is good in qualifying, so it's not such a good race driver, but he is good in the one lap and getting a good grid position. Normally, I don't know what happened to him in the last race, qualifying down in 10th, but we've seen in Monaco, the race before that, he qualified in P2. And, he is a good qualifier normally. So I'm going to go for Hamilton to stick it on pole, Bottas P2, and Max in P3. And that takes us on to the race. What are your thoughts for the race?
It's, again, hard to look past those three. But I realised I didn't do it for one of the races. I think maybe Monaco and Azerbaijan. A weird prediction. So I'm going to try one this weekend. I'm going to go Lewis. I'm going to go Lewis Valtteri. So those two to keep it. And then P3 is going to be, I can't believe I'm saying Fernando Alonso. Why not? He's getting a podium at least once this year, is Fernando. He's still my pick for a surprise weird winner because it's Fernando Alonso. But I'm going to go him P3 just through something, somehow. Maybe a safety car incident, maybe, I don't know. I don't think it will happen, but it'd be nice to see. I just want to see him on the podium. We've had 7 on the podium now on Fernando. I'll say Kimi the week after, and then sort of I've done the old drivers, so I'll be happy. But yeah, that's who I think I'll go for. I want to see someone different on the podium. Now we've seen Gasly and obviously Vettel and stuff on there. So yeah, that's what I'm going for. What about you?
So Lewis for the win for me. I think it'll be a dominant performance from him. He'll be on pole. I think he'll just be like easy race for him, leading from lap 1 to the end. But I don't trust Bottas. When it comes to race distance and racing, like as a race driver, he's just put in too many poor performances. It's like it's as good as a Mercedes is. I just don't have faith in him. Hopefully for his sake, he can drive well and get the P2. But I don't think he's gonna make it even the podium. I'm gonna go for Lewis to win the race, Max to get P2, and P3. I'm gonna go for Nando. I think McLaren were doing really well on such tracks. So before these street tracks, we saw Nando's getting the podiums out in Barcelona, in Portugal, we had strong cars there. So I expect that to continue. And so that's I've been a little bit, normally I always keep it quite boring, but I think just, it's got a good chance. I don't think I'm being too, taking, it's a high chance, Nando's done really well this season. So let's see how that goes. And like I say, with rain, but if the rain comes, that could really throw things up, even at the top with Max and Lewis, as we saw, accidents can happen, tires can blow out, and in the rain, there's much more chance of accidents happening and collisions, safety cars. So let's see. Let's just hope for a good race as always, and a close battle between all the drivers right throughout the grid. And yeah,
that would be nice. I'm going to say, we spoke about Alex Albon earlier. I need to give my boy a shout out because I think he's racing in the first round of the DTM this weekend as well. So I've got the F1 and the DTM if make sure people check it out if they're interested. There's a good lineup, but yeah, I think the rain could be the deciding factor if it comes this weekend. Otherwise, I do think we'll see a pretty boring race, but we're due for one. We've had 2 exciting ones. We're due for another boring one. So yeah, I think you're spot on with most of your predictions anyway, usually. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's see. And when, as you know, we're saying this is the busy time now, really busy time before the summer break. So we've got 3 races in a row. So straight after this, back to back in Austria. That's Red Bull's home tracks as well. We know how strong Mercedes are there. So, you know, it's a really important phase of the season coming up. And as we know, we got the sprint, this whole sprint thing coming up in Silverstone as well soon. And, you know, they're talking
disgust in your voice. That, by the way, is brilliant.
I don't know how that's going to go. They're trying to dress it up as going to be something spectacular. But as we spoke about, we can't see that happening. But anyway, something different. Let's see how it goes down. So, yeah, really busy time. Looking forward to it. And looking forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for your time.
You too, mate. No problem. Thank you for having me again.
Please remember to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.